Well, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. We're all hoping 2021 is going to be a good year. That's what we're going to start this year off with. It actually seems like it's going to be good. We've got really high RSVPs for the quarterly meeting, which is super fantastic. I'm Trisha, newcomer, for those that don't know who I am. As Crystal was saying, I think we've got a few more that are coming in from the waiting room. So if you didn't hear that, if you could go to the chat room and put your name and your email and your organization. That's sort of the virtual sign-in sheet, if you will. So if you could do that for us, that would be great. Just make sure that you do have, if you're not already on mute, make sure that you do have your screens on mute until it's your turn to speak if you do so. We do have a little bit of housekeeping in that we have the new board members and the 2021-2023 slate of officers. At the last quarterly meeting in October, the slate of officers were presented and there was no comments against the slate, but as a formality, we do it a second time. And so we want to present everyone to the group so you can see myself for incoming president. Now's the chance to vote me out quickly. For our first vice president, we have Dan Cruz. Second vice president, Dorothy Diller. For secretary, Kim Blanche. And treasurer, Midline Awar. So we do need to have a group vote on that. So you can signify by raising your hand. You can use it your the little reaction if you want. If you actually want to say unmute yourself, you can do that. So we just need to go ahead and call for a vote on that. So all in favor? See a lot of hands. Okay. And then those that oppose and then or abstain, those of us that are being presented should actually abstain from this. So I would abstain. Awkward silence.
I know it's hard to always do these kinds of housekeeping items, especially when you're on Zoom.
Yeah. So,
if you abstain, put it in the chat box, or if you oppose, put it in the chat box. If not, I think you just say the vote carries.
All right. With that, I don't see negatives, so I'm going to say we'll go ahead and we'll have the vote pass with the new slate of officers. Congratulations to everyone in those positions. I know all of us are eager to see the coalition succeed, and we know with our fearless leader, we will do that. So at this point, I will go ahead and I'll turn over the quarterly meeting to our wonderful executive director, Ms. Peg Geisler.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here, and congratulations to this board that I'll be working and we'll all be working with for the next 2 years. Really excited. If you want to know more about how to get engaged with us, and you would think that you might be somebody who might be interested in the future being on the board or being more engaged as a chair of one of our committees, always let me or my staff know. The first thing on the agenda today is really a special recognition. Basically just letting everyone know that Megan couldn't be with us today. She is our outgoing president, but she will be remaining on the board. Our board keeps our presidency for 2 years as the immediate past president, and so she will be serving in that light. But I wanted to thank her formally during this meeting, and we have an award. Crystal is showing it to you. It will be shipped to her, honoring her for her years of service, not only as the board president for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, but also for the work she did prior to that as a volunteer on our committees through our health committee and the other things that we have done and are doing. She has really been instrumental in linking us to the community health needs assessment work that went on with BB initially and now goes on with the 3 other major hospitals. And also that has allowed us to have them be champions in our Purple initiative. So we really thank her for her believing in our mission and being offering her leadership, and then her support as we have grown and will continue to grow. So kudos and hats off to Megan, and we'll be sure that she gets that award. If you are not muted, please mute. Thank you. And then, so the next thing on our agenda is I just want to go over quickly have a report. I'm going to try to be quick because we have several presenters here today. So Dave, if you want to go to my first slide. So just so you know that Sussex County Health Coalition in 2021, we want you to know what our commitment to you continues to be as an organization. We will continue to make sure that you're aware of what's going on in the state as well as locally around health and other social determinant issues that affect you, your constituents, and the community as a whole. We will inform you with credible information through speakers, webinars, panels, and link you to resources that we know become available to you. We will continue to connect you. We will connect you with funders, with technical advice.
That is nuts.
With data. Carrie, can you mute? That would be awesome. And committee presenters. So, and then we will support you. We will make sure that if there's grants that we can funnel down through us, that would be great. Program support, marketing, trainings, and I put TBD. And what that means is to be determined based on what your set of needs are. And we get that on a monthly basis through our meetings, our committee meetings, but we also get that one-on-ones with you. If you tell us there's something you require, we do our best to go out and see if we can't seek those resources or relationships with you. Next slide. So what were some of our milestones in 2020? 2020 was a tough year, and it was a tough year for all of us. But the coalition was steadfast in its resolve to continue to support you and all of our partner organizations. We were up and running within 30 days, 100% virtually. And all of our grants and even some of our grants administration was ported onto our website and done virtually. Our programs were able to be shifted, a lot of them virtually. And so we wanted to make sure we were able to do that. And that happened in our first quarter. In our second quarter, we convened a lot of the providers who were in our community who were working and getting and made sure that they were aligned, talking to each other when we were addressing the crisis. And we only had to do that for a short period of time. And then when the state caught up and started to bring that to bear on the convening, we were able to then take a step back and go through our regular work. Anchor partnerships. We have worked really closely with the hospitals, but then we were really interested in creating more of an anchor relationship with a higher level educational institution. So Delaware State University. We had previously been working with the University of Delaware, but Del State not so much. And this has allowed us this year to really intentionally form a relationship with that. And I'll talk a little bit more. And then we had board growth. We had resource development growth, increased revenue. We actually increased our staffing capacity. So during a time where our community was in crisis, we made sure that our infrastructure would become tighter, more stable and solidified so that we could continue to offer the services you need. So what do we look like for 2021? Well, we're looking at really committing to more of an alignment and relationship with our statewide agencies and partners so that you have a voice with them and they have a voice through you. And so we're looking at ways to solidify that through DSAM, through DHSS, all of the different groups and committees, national. We are actually going to be working with a group for NACHO and AASHTO. We just received a grant. We are going to be looked at nationally because of our work as a coalition and our longstanding. We were awarded that review of $50,000 so that they could do a survey and study and understand us as we might be what they consider a national model. We also are working with the Seaford Children and Families First, the Community of Hope, and the KSC Family Foundation. So that's going to give us a national footprint and presence. And then we'll be supporting, and working alignment with Annie Norman. You'll hear more from her for the Department of Libraries and her Communities of Excellence work and their Baldridge model. And then research and evaluation. We're in the midst of the CAST tool, working on really understanding what have we been able to do through our Purple work and some of our prevention work and some of the work that's been done in the community. And again, the NACHO and AASHTO review. Strategic planning, guess what? It's hard to believe, but we're there again. By the end of this year, our organization will be needing to do our strategic planning for the next 5 years and forecast where we are, where we're going. And so it's going to be a pretty full year in 2021. And no matter what comes along, my commitment, our commitment to you is to be there with you every step of the way to help you do your work and to support you. So I thank you. That's your update and our small year in review. Our annual report comes out in April. And so you could be looking forward to that. After today's meeting, our newsletter, quarterly newsletter is kind of long. We had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of partners doing some great work. So we felt like we really needed to demonstrate that, and that'll be out in your inboxes right after the meeting today. So without further ado, it is my job to introduce some of our illustrious speakers today. Tynetta, are you able to join us by phone today?
I think she is. Let's see here.
You unmute your phone and then mute your computer so there's no feedback loop, because you were on there a minute ago. I had heard you. So I'm going to start to work at introducing Tynetta. I can't hear her, but she's going to call in on her phone, and then she's going to click on her mute button on the screen. And no. There you are. So mute your screen, Tynetta, because you'll get feedback because your computer can still hear. All right, and say something so we hear if there's feedback. No, you're muting your phone, not your screen. There you go. Are you there? No. So here's what we're going to do. Dave, are we okay if we move to our next speaker, move them up on the agenda until we can get Tynetta figured out?
Tynetta, I'll call you in a second.
Okay. So I'm going to go. Cynthia, are you with us and ready to roll? Cynthia Schermeyer? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Annie. I'm sorry, Annie Norman. Annie, are you ready to go with us?
I am ready. You have my slides? I'm ready.
Yep, we will tee up. Let me go ahead and introduce Annie so everybody knows. Dr. Annie Norman is the State Librarian and Director of the Delaware Division of Libraries. Under her leadership, the Delaware Library Catalog is established. She currently has 74 participating libraries that are sharing over 2.5 million items for the benefit of Delawareans. Annie is the first librarian to be included in the Hall of Fame of Delaware Women. And you can watch her talk on her TEDx. We'll make sure we put that link in there for you if you want to hear some of Annie's wisdom and what's going on there. We'd love to promote all of that she's doing and what the libraries are doing. In the meantime, Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to pull up your slide deck for you.
Great. Thank you, Peggy. I'm delighted to be here with all of you today. So thank you. So today we present an overview of who we are at Delaware Libraries, what we can do for the community, the state, and you, and where together we can create significant impact. Next slide, please. When you think of traditional libraries, what thoughts come to mind? Perhaps your memory is like the pictures on the top row. Shelves of books, hushed voices, shh. The library police, like the Stephen King short story. But what if I told you libraries are innovative and responsive? Our programs foster interactive learning. We deploy national best practices. We foster connectivity among partners in real time in our communities. We're beyond only books now. Information and learning is available in many forms today. Next slide, please. We are driving equality. Public libraries are the manifestation of true democracy and the doorway to a more equitable society in its truest sense. Why? We provide access to trusted information for anyone and everyone. In a welcoming and accepting environment, we're located strategically within approximately 7 miles of every Delawarean. Our technology is standardized and connected. We partner to raise awareness of services in our communities. We share messaging consistently through programs and webinars, Ask a Librarian assistance, learning links and content, and services to support learning. We have a global reach and a local touch. Our literacy support, such as Imagination Library for preschoolers, health and wellness, job support, and much more. Next slide, please. Can you mute the others, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
We address inequities and inequalities. Libraries are society's great equalizer between the haves and have-nots, so that all may be informed. We're protecting democracy, overcoming misinformation and disinformation, ensuring equity. These are more critical now than ever. Next slide, please. The libraries are where information and community converge statewide. We research the needs and provide solutions. We're driven by professional librarians and library staff. We're fostering services through collaboration. We're helping individuals navigate and connect to resources and provide support in their journey. Next slide, please. Community transformation occurs when someone facilitates it. We understand the needs of our communities. We bring partners together around those needs and services. We link support and services and address gaps to ensure those needs are met. When we are all linked, we can better understand cause and effect, what works and what doesn't. Next slide, please. Our bold path forward involves you. We are better together. Our social infrastructure is stronger and we have greater reach for a healthier and stronger Delaware. Next slide, please. The role we play is bold progress. So where do you live and work on this map? All these data points are libraries throughout the state with a cadre of over 500 librarians and library staff, many of which who are on here today, ready to connect with you and your organization. The libraries are seamlessly connected, and when we are all better connected with a more unified system of care in our communities, we will all be more effective on behalf of Delawareans. Next slide, please. Together, we impact 1 million Delawareans. Our network of libraries, network with partners, weaves throughout the network of life. Throughout the life journey, we play a role in every stage of life. We support heritage and achievement across generations. We are a legacy organization. This is a call to action for our partners. You are champions for Delawareans, and together we can achieve greater impact. Please join us. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. I'm Annie Norman.
Thanks, Annie. So, I think in the past, we've always thought about the library system as a nice place to go check out a book. But I think I tell people all the time, it's a great place to develop a life. And so it's amazing to me, the number of telehealth initiatives, the navigation, the literacy work, the tutoring, the wraparound service arrays, the ability that classes are offered, physical location, virtual connectivity, the way shared information occurs. And even they were the first to, and I love this, when we first started with all this COVID stuff, the only place you could go to connect if you didn't have Wi-Fi in your home, Annie had set it up that every single library, you could go to their parking lot and connect from there. And so, they were the first out of the gate with that. They were up, ready, and nimble. And we oftentimes forget that system can be so impactful for us, whether it's locally or statewide. So thanks for being here today, Annie. And I'm sure if anybody has any questions or needs to get a hold of you, her contact is on that slide. Please feel free to reach out to her. I have found the libraries to be one of the #1 collaborators in the state. So that being said, are we ready with Tynetta, or should I keep moving forward until we have that set up?
Keep moving forward.
Okay, no problem. So the next person talking is Cynthia Schermeyer. Cynthia is with Literacy Delaware. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, Cynthia. She's the Executive Director of Literacy Delaware since 2007. She's over 20 years experience in the field of adult basic education. She has served as an adjunct faculty member for both University of Delaware and Delaware State University. In addition to her work as the Executive Director, she is a consultant for the Center of Applied Linguistics, Adult Assessments in Washington, D.C. And we welcome her. She's going to tell you a little bit about one of our other best kept secrets, Literacy Delaware. Cynthia? Is she on here? Are you muted, Cindy?
I certainly am muted. Here I am. Okay.
That's okay. It was
Get the nerves out that way, right?
It was a dramatic pause.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for asking me to speak with you today. Next slide. My objectives are pretty clear. Impact. Telling you about our why, our what, our who, where we're going, and most importantly, you. Next slide, please. So who we are. In 1982, in a basement, the beginnings of a literacy volunteer organization that would work with adults with low literacy skills took root. In January of 1983, 25 people graduated from the first tutor training class with Literacy Volunteers of America, Wilmington Library. In 1992, we added the program of teaching English to immigrants and refugees, and we have been growing steadily ever since. Most notably has been our expansion to Kent and Sussex counties in 2015, which caused us to change our name to Literacy Delaware since we have been moving statewide. And then our program totally went virtual due to COVID-19. And we also finished a very dynamic strategic plan that is going to propel us forward in addressing the literacy crisis that we're facing in our state. Next slide, please. So why are we so passionate about literacy? It's easy, really. No Delawarean should be left behind in their education, in their health care, and in having a job with a sustainable wage. Kofi Annan is quoted saying, "Literacy is a bridge from misery to hope." The statistics on this slide show you the numbers, but to me, literacy and the why we do this is Oscar. He's the middle guy in the collage of pictures right there. His mom was with us for 2 years studying English, and now she speaks English and reads to Oscar in English. Also, there's Liliana, who after finishing her health literacy class with us, went and made her first appointment for a mammogram in English. And then there's James, who was with us for 2 years, and he worked part-time at a bowling alley. Now he works full-time at Amazon, and in the evenings, he's taking classes to earn his high school diploma. Next slide, please. During tutor orientation, I asked the question, what is literacy? And most often the answer I get is, it's reading. Well, that's very true. But as this slide shows you, literacy involves so much more, and our work involves so much more. There are math skills, there's digital literacy or computer literacy, working with parents and children, and financial proficiency in our community. Literacy proficiency really involves all these different areas to be able to function and thrive in the 21st century. Next slide, please. So what is next? Well, I guess, let me back up. With the what is next, I want to tell you that I'm excited. And I'm very excited. In fact, I'm excited like Paco is in the picture. He received a Chromebook this summer for continuing his classes. He uses the Chromebook now instead of his cell phone. Our strategic plan is taking us on a transforming journey. In fact, it is a path that's going to advance literacy through, we have education there, but what we do, our service array is tutoring and training adults. But within this transformative change, you're going to see how we're wanting to collaborate and to partner with other people. We know that literacy and what we do is a game changer. It's part of equity and justice and inclusion. Literacy can open minds and it changes lives. I've seen it. We need partners, and we're looking in our moving forward for partners that we can work with and collaborate with so we can empower more Delawareans to reach their full potential. Next slide, please. All right, here it is. The opportunity. The first thing is the collaboration. We need you to collaborate with us. We need partners because we know, as Annie had said, we can do much more together than what we can do alone. We also need you as an advocate. We need champions. I will say that we're the best kept secret in Delaware. My voice alone may not be heard, but if we have many voices talking about this issue, it's like a choir, and it really is a beautiful sound. And then we need your support. And yes, we need your financial support, just like all the other organizations. But we also need your support in tutoring and volunteering. This growth that we're engaging in is going to take more tutors. We're also going to need your help on committees that we're forming to propel our strategic plan forth. And we need your help attending fundraisers when we have them. Nelson Mandela once said, literacy is the most, not literacy, but education rather. I put in literacy, but really education is the most powerful weapon we have, which we can use to change the world. All through working on this strategic plan, I kept saying to myself over and over, take a leap. Take a leap with me to change the world. Next slide. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk about one of my favorite subjects. And if you have any questions, want to join committees, want to partner with us, there's my email, and I would be delighted to talk with you.
All right, thank you, Cynthia. I'm really excited. Delaware, before Literacy Delaware, really just didn't have a statewide literacy organization, and this organization has decided to step up to the plate and really expand. Many states that have actually been able to address social determinant issues actually started through the lens of literacy and around health literacy. You know, I think we're very lucky. I think there's a way to promote and support this. And I know that Dr. Norman and Cynthia are working together on a lot of stuff across the state. So we're excited to be a part of that and to support that. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to Cynthia. All right. Okay, so moving forward, that's really important. And we congratulate her on this new role. So Dana, I'm going to let you know a little bit about Dana. And is Rachel with Dana today? Do I introduce both? I just want to make sure. Yes, okay. All right, so Dana Holtz is a research associate with the Center of Drug and Health Studies at the University of Delaware. She's a program evaluator on a variety of substance abuse prevention projects that are active in Delaware. She also contributes to the work of the State Epidemiological Outcomes Work Group. Whoa, that's a big word. Dana has volunteered in the role of a family member in several initiatives that aim to provide better supports and services for people with autism and other neurodevelopmental disabilities. Rachel Riding, she is also with her, is a candidate in the sociology of the University of Delaware and has been a graduate research assistant at the Center for Drug and Health Studies since 2017. She primarily works on projects for the State Epidemiological Work Group as well, including the Delaware Annual State Epidemiological Report. And I know you girls put that word in there 8 times for me to say. I guarantee it. Anyway, we welcome both of these young ladies who are extremely knowledgeable and who are going to present on some information and data around substance use disorder, and take it away.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate being invited today, and look forward to sharing some of the data that we have. We have quite a lot of slides, so we're going to move through them fast. But first, wanted to tell you a little bit about the Epidemiological Outcomes Work Group, which is that word is challenging for all of us. So we always shorten it to EPI. This is the SCOW, and this is a project of the Center for Drug and Health Studies. It is funded currently through was a SAMHSA initiative channeled through DSAM, the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, currently funded through the Block Grant. Previously, it was funded through the Strategic Prevention Framework Partnerships for Success program, and it's had a couple of different iterations before that. It's a national program. A lot of states have SEOW, some are more active than others. Fortunately, I think we have a fairly active one, and it's been a lot of fun working on this project. So what is the EPI, or the SEOW? Well, it has 4 goals. The first one is to build monitoring and surveillance systems. So this is, looking at tracking data around substance abuse, behavioral health indicators, things like morbidity and mortality associated with drug use, treatment emissions, et cetera. Then to identify and share and analyze that data to a broad network of collaborators, people who are part of the work group. We also create data-guided products, including our annual epidemiological report, which is quite long. I think Rachel's kind of been the lead on that this year, but it's, I think, generally around 200 pages. We also have infographics, heat maps, and other products. And then we also have a goal to train agencies and community agencies in doing something just like this, providing database trainings, providing data support. So if someone is trying to apply for a grant around substance abuse prevention, they can come to us and ask for trend data, or if they want to, create a policy brief or a local councilman or something like that, we can help them find some data and support them in their data efforts. Next slide. So again, this is kind of what I just went over. We can provide data presentations, data points, TA around finding data. If you wanted to know how to use the census data, or how to locate, for example, prescription drug monitoring program data on the state website, we can help you with that. And occasionally we will provide more focused data analyses. For example, if you came and said you were working on a health initiative and you want to know how many kids surveyed in Delaware reported being bullied and then using substance use, we could look at some of that data specifically, that kind of topic. Next slide, please. This is one example of one of the infographics that are on our website. Again, we have multiple products. One of the ones that people seem to enjoy a lot are heat maps, which overlays the Delaware school survey data onto regional maps. So you can look at trends in past month tobacco use, vaping use, marijuana use, et cetera, across the region. And Rachel will guide you through some of those when she gets to her part of the presentation. Next slide, please. To access SCOW resources, you can go to our website at the Center for Drug and Health Studies at UD. So this is cdhs.udel.edu SCOW if you want to go straight to SCOW. Under the SCOW module, we have the annual report, the heat maps, the school surveys, and then these other products, which include things like the gap reports. The last gap report we worked on, thank you, Rachel, was around positive child experiences. We've also worked around people with disabilities, an opioid policy brief, homelessness and substance use, parental substance abuse. These are some of the topics that have come up in the gap reports. We also have access to the school surveys, which Rachel will talk a little bit more about, including the actual survey form where people fill out, as well as the analyses. And then another project of the center, which is not an SCOW product, but maybe of interest to you, is the DOMIT project, the Delaware Opioid Metric Intelligence Project, and it's under this project module. This is another heat map based tool where you can see, unfortunately, opioid mortality in Delaware and where that's located and trends in that and regional patterns around that. So that's another area that might be of interest to people. Next slide, please. Rachel is going to present the bulk of the data here, but I did want to just note a few things about the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affected behavioral health. There's more and more reports coming out, a lot just even in the last month, showing some really concerning trends associated with behavioral health. This first one mentioned here, I don't know how you say it, Seisler et al. Did a survey of representative United States population and found people reporting increased or more substance use, more thoughts of suicidal ideation, a lot of stress, social isolation, anxiety and depression. The National Household Pulse Survey, it's a project of the US Census Bureau and the National Center for Health Statistics. They do surveys in 2-week increments and it started last May, I believe. But the last one, the last pulse survey that they have data reported for, which was December 9th through 21st, the adults who were surveyed reported that about 4 out of 10 meet the indicators of symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorders, which is quite a lot. In comparison, a survey by the National Health Statistics, I think it's a National Health Interview Survey, for the previous year, 2019, in the same time period, 11% of respondents reported those same symptoms. So we're seeing pretty dramatic increases in adults reporting depression and anxiety, particularly in the age group of 18 to 25, which is an age group that in our experience, we don't see quite a lot of real targeted services for. That's an age group that kind of gets lost. So people between 18 and 25 are experiencing very dramatic symptoms of anxiety and depression. We also have seen some concerning trends around mental health visits to ED for pediatric patients. While the overall numbers are less than have been in the last year, by just a small tiny bit, the proportion is far more. And this is dramatic because there was a lot of messaging around don't use the ED unless absolutely necessary during the pandemic. So the fact that this proportion of people who are coming to ED with mental health crises is alarming. And these are children. And then also, sadly, we're seeing increases in fatal drug overdoses. So for the last 12-month period. And there was a sharp uptick between May and March. National data for fatal drug overdoses beyond that time period is not quite available, but unfortunately that's a very concerning trend. So I just wanted to let you all know this because there are some real, and there's more reports than this, but we're seeing, unfortunately, very alarming trends coming around behavioral health right now. So Rachel's going to talk more specifically about Delaware data, and then we'll tell you more about it.
Thanks so much, Dana. And going back to the relating to COVID-19 data, talked a little bit about some of what we know nationally and from some preliminary data about the impacts of the pandemic on some of these behavioral health indicators. All of the data that I'm about to talk about is from school survey data that was collected prior to the pandemic. Unfortunately, with the pandemic and schools being closed, we haven't been able to get into schools and do a lot of our data collection that we typically would. But this data is the most recent data that we do have from our surveys, and gives a good kind of pulse for where things were pre-pandemic. And hopefully when we have more data, we can see if and how these indicators have been affected by the pandemic. You can go to the next slide. So I'm going to be talking about data today from our two primary surveys that we do at the Center for Drug and Health Studies, the Delaware School Survey and the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. These surveys are given to a sample of public school students across the state of Delaware. The YRBS is administered every other year. It's an odd numbered year. So we're hoping that in 2021, we'll be able to do that survey again in the fall. And then the Delaware School Survey is administered annually. And we analyze the school survey data for a lot of different purposes. One that I work on specifically is for the state epidemiological report, which we also call the EPI, which is an annual report of a lot of these indicators of substance use and mental health among youth in Delaware. You can go to the next slide. So just to start, this is a Venn diagram that one of our research associates has put together that really emphasizes the level of polysubstance use among youth in Delaware. So you can see these circles represent the overlapping substance use among youth. One of the things that was particularly powerful in our data and research in recent years is the extent of the overlap with cigarette use and vaping use. So if you can see, in 2018, which is when this particular Venn diagram was made, all of the students who reported cigarette use also reported vaping use. So we see these really, really high levels of overlap and really strong correlation between using one substance and using more substances. And that's particularly strong with things like vaping and cigarettes, which is something to watch. Next slide. So I'm going to be going through these pretty quickly just in the interest of time, but these slides can be available to anyone afterwards, and we're available for questions via email too if you miss anything. I'm going to talk just a few points about cigarettes and vaping from our data. Next slide. And I'll be highlighting some of our heat maps that Dana mentioned. These can be found on the SCOW webpage. I dropped a link for that in the chat. But so one of our research associates, Jim Heiberger, every year he puts together these heat maps using our school survey data, and we can look at the zip code level trends in particular substance use among 8th and 11th graders in Delaware is what we look at because we use the Delaware School Survey. And these typically combine multiple years of data because sometimes our sample sizes within individual zip codes might be a little too small to report reliably. So these maps combine 2018 and 2019 data. The one on the left is past month cigarette use among 11th graders, and the one on the right is past month vaping device use among 11th graders. So you can see the zip codes that have the darker red or the brighter orange. Those are the ones that have the higher rates of students reporting past month use of these substances. So looking at cigarette use and looking at vaping use, some of those zip codes with the higher concentrations tend to be towards the southern end of the state. Next slide. And we also know, anybody who's worked in health and prevention knows that vaping in particular has increased substantially in the last few years. Looking at the percent of 11th grade students that report vaping in the past month, that figure quadrupled in about a 5-year period. And we don't typically see increases that quickly among substance use. Some national data is suggesting that by early 2020, some of these increases kind of leveled off. But again, we're not totally sure. With the pandemic and some of the disruptions in data collection, we really need a little bit more time to know if this is still increasing or if it might start leveling off at this point. Next slide. And looking at the race and ethnicity of students who report vaping, across these indicators, typically it's the white students who report vaping at higher percentages than Black or Hispanic and Latino students. So at 41% of white students report vaping, in the past year, compared to 16% of Black students or 28% of Latinx students. And if you look at this another way, while in our survey population, about 50% of the students we survey are white, about 65% of the students who vape are white. So you see that there is a little bit of a racial distinction here, and it tends to be the white students that are reporting using more. Next slide, please. And now just to talk a couple points about alcohol. Next slide, I'm going to show some heat maps again. So this is, on the left is past month alcohol use among 11th grade students, and the map on the right is binge drinking in the past 2 weeks among 11th grade students. And we see, a few zip codes in the southern portion where there's that bright red again with some of those higher rates of alcohol use. Next slide. And again, similar to the vaping, when you look at the race and ethnicity of students who report drinking in the past month, it tends to be the white students who are reporting drinking at higher rates than students of other races and ethnicities. Next slide. And then finally, a little bit of a positive, overall over the past 20 years, as we look at Delaware data and national data from the YRBS, there have been overall declines in high school binge drinking, which is a positive. Next slide. And just to talk about marijuana for a moment, next slide, you'll see a trend chart. So with most substances, we see that the perception of risk has increased over time. So over time, students have come to believe that prescription misuse and cigarette use and binge drinking, those things present a high risk. But with marijuana use, we see over time the perception of risk is actually decreased. So students today feel that marijuana is less risky than students 20 years ago did. And those perceptions of risk can interact with what kind of behavior students might engage in around marijuana. So that's an important thing to gauge. And marijuana is another one where we don't see the same strong patterns in use by race and ethnicity. It tends to be fairly ubiquitous in our data, at least, that about a quarter of students are using marijuana. Next slide. And then this last section of data, I'm just going to talk about opioids and prescription misuse, showing again some heat maps on the next slide from our Delaware heat maps that Jim makes, and then also a couple of maps from DOMIP, which is the Delaware Opioid Metric Intelligence Project that Dana mentioned. So when you look at past year prescription painkiller misuse, and so the map on the left side is any prescription drug misuse. So this might include Adderall or Xanax or other non-opioid medications that someone could still misuse. And then on the map on the right is the heat map of past year prescription painkiller misuse. So the one on the right is specifically opioid prescriptions. And we see a little bit of a different pattern from the other maps in terms of where the rates of prescription misuse are a little bit more concentrated, but we still see a couple zip codes kind of on the northern end of the county where there's higher concentrations of past year reported prescription painkiller misuse. And on the next slide, we've got a couple maps on DOMIC. So DOMIC data looks at overall residents of these Delaware counties, and it looks at overdose death rates. So it's a little bit different from the data in the previous slide that was just students reporting prescription misuse. But we do see, especially when looking at the zip code map on the right, pretty high overdose death rates in the southern end of the county. Next slide. And we also see that among youth, there's a pretty high perception of risk with misusing prescription medications. The only thing that students tend to feel is riskier is smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So we see that some of that messaging around prescription misuse in particular being really risky is getting through to youth and is being reflected in our surveys. And then the final few slides here, I know we we have so much data on youth substance use and some of these different trends in these maps. But one of the things that we also do is look at potential risk and protective factors for use. So in our EPI report, we have a whole chapter devoted to adverse childhood experiences. And we ask several questions on the YRBS survey about experiences of violence, if you've had a parent who's been incarcerated, if you've been bullied, things like that that could be considered traumatic experiences. And then we look at substance use outcomes for students who've experienced these forms of trauma. And what we see across the board is that students with one traumatic experience and students with 2 or more traumatic experiences are reporting substance use at much higher rates than students who haven't had any of these traumatic experiences. And then the next 2 slides, we're also looking at things that could be protective factors against substance use and against poorer mental health outcomes. So not just looking at the adverse experiences, but looking at the positive experiences. And one of the things that we find is that students who report that their parents have strong rules and consequences at home tend to report these indicators of suicide or self-harm or feeling potentially depressed at lower rates than students who don't have that structure and those strong boundaries at home. So we see that things like strong relationships with parents and these consistent rules and boundaries at home can be protective against poor mental health outcomes. And then that plays into our final slide, looking at we also ask students what their sources of support and encouragement, who they go to for support and encouragement. And about 3/4 of students say that they can go to their parents for support. And we find when we look at this in the data, the students that feel like they can go to their parents for support tend to have better outcomes across substance use and mental health indicators. And on our next slide, and I'm done with data now, I promise. Just to highlight a couple things we have coming up. If you want to know more about some of the work that we do or hear more about some of this data, because I know I've gone through a lot of this pretty quickly, and this is really just a sampling of some of the stuff we do. We have our winter SCOW meeting next Thursday. Positive childhood experiences and protective factors. That's in the wraps now, should hopefully be released at the end of this month. And that'll go into much more detail with some of the topics I introduced at the very end there, with respect to factors that could be protective against substance use. And then on our last slide here, if you want to know more about the SCOW in particular, be added to that listserv, you can contact Major Scales or Sharon Merriman Nye. And I believe the slides will be sent out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you both Rachel and Dana for giving us that overview. Several things. We've used both of them and this information on many of the grants that we've prepared and applied for. It is invaluable. They are an invaluable resource. Their services are invaluable. As they push out this information, we will continue to push it out for you. If you have a specific need, talk to them. If they don't know or have it in their cache, they probably know somebody who does. And so, I think having information, and I'm very interested in some of the heat maps, it gives us an indication of where we may be actually impacting or doing well. And in other areas where we might not be doing really well, we need to start to understand and figure that out. So there were things that intrigued me from that. I think in the final two, your point also today in your presentation that's really important is we've got a whole swath of mental health issues that are related to what I call universal trauma that has occurred because of COVID over the past almost getting close to a year. And we need to recognize that our community and how our mental health as a community has shifted, pivoted, and changed. And we as a network of providers need to pivot, shift, and change to support and address that. And so in our organization, we'll be looking and drilling down on that in all of our subcommittees as we move forward. We just really appreciate the information so that in real time, we can start to respond in real time as a community. So again, Rachel and Dana, any last parting words before we move forward?
No, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it. And you actually do want to say, please, part of our job, what we are contracted to do is to support the community-based organizations in Delaware. So please do not hesitate to ask us for help, because that's what we're supposed to be doing.
All right.
We're happy to help.
Thank you, ladies. And this is my one last chance to find out if Philanthropy Delaware is ready. And if not, we're going to be punting that to April. No.
Tynetta, yes, she wanted to try one more time.
No. We're gonna get you straight, Tynetta, and we definitely will have you back. I feel really bad because you've been on here listening to all of this today, but at least we'll get it all worked out. Don't know what the issue is for you. No, don't be sorry. I'm glad I can read lips. Don't be sorry. We're glad to see your beautiful face. For those who don't know Tynetta, she is a dynamic leader and friend, and has always been a supporter of the coalition. So that'll just give us a second time to have her in our April meeting, and by then she will tell us all about what's been going on in philanthropy, because she will have been in that position more than a month, and so that'll be good, right? So we'll make sure that we have a relationship and with you coming and presenting in April. So our final presenter today is Dr. Julius Mullen. He's going to talk about some exciting news, but Dr. Mullen is the Chief Clinical Officer for Children and Families First of Delaware. He is passionate about leadership development, professional mentorship, and clinical supervision. Dr. Mullen and his wife, Tasha, are both clinical mental health experts who also direct grassroots youth leadership program called Impact Delaware, which is a 501c3 now. We love that. And in his spare time, he immerses himself in self-care, spending time with his wife and kids. He's definitely a family and a community man. And he's also on our board. I always have to throw that out there because, want to make sure people understand that, we have the best and the brightest on our leadership team who actually understand the communities that we serve. And so with no further ado, Dr. Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Executive Director. Appreciate that, Peggy. Hello, everybody. I am going to take us home, if you will. So, I've lived in Seaford for over 25 years, and Seaford has been an incredible jewel in Sussex County and a bright spot in our state, full of promise and opportunity. There are so many champions in Seaford cheering for a sense of community and revitalization, hard work, equity, and family. And that's my favorite, family. Like many of you, I am and have been and continue to be inspired by our community resilience and momentum across the state and across sectors and systems and citizens, including Seaford. Seaford is moving forward, and we will continue to do so regardless of challenge or circumstance. So today, this morning, I virtually stand before you humbly and honored to share that Seaford Community of Hope has been part of Seaford's efforts to make a place where families can proudly call home. Initiated by our First Lady, Quillen Carney, Casey Family Home programs and Division of Family Services, supported by many state and local stakeholders. Children Families First formed a partnership with Sussex County Health Coalition to literally walk side by side with families of Seaford as they pursue their life dreams. Now, as well as I know, it's really not about the program. It's not about a logic model, although we love them, we need them. It's not about a strategic plan. It's about talented, caring, committed people who are on the right bus, in the right seat, headed in the right direction. So let's learn a little bit more about those dedicated people as they provide an evolutionary overview of our Seaford Community of Hope. Mr. Dave, can you cue that video, please?
Hi, my name is Jeff Benson, community consultant with the Seaford Community of Hope.
Hey everyone, my name is Catherine Burrett, or as some of you may know me, Kat. I work with my counterpart, Jeff Benson, on the Seaford Community of Hope project.
The Seaford Community of Hope is a project developed in partnership with Children's and Families First, Casey Family Program, Division of Family Services, and the Sussex County Health Coalition.
I am happy to say, after a year and a half, we have well over 65 partners now, from grassroots organizations to higher end stakeholders, from the community-based programs in Seaford, the Boys and Girls Club, the police department, you name it, we're probably working with them. What Community of Hope means, the Seaford Community of Hope, is to meet families where they're at, to immerse ourselves in their culture, their needs, their day-to-day, to ask them directly and to listen to the answers of what do you need, where are you at right now, where would you like to be, and how do you see yourself getting there, and how can we as the Community of Hope help you get there?
We currently leverage cross-agency and cross-community collaboration in Seaford to reduce the occurrence of maltreatment, decrease the number of children entering foster care, and decrease re-entry of care for children who have experienced foster care.
So what we have found is that stress typically are igniters for abuse and neglect in the homes. Because when we do look at a child entering the foster care system, we can't just continue to look at the child on their own. We need to look at their dynamic, the family and the community as a whole. How do we holistically approach the concerns and the stressors, and how do we help mitigate some of those so that in turn there is a relief, there is resource connection, there is community support engagement, and hopefully connecting with resources to help the families not reach the point of foster care needs, of intervention. Connect with the community members, we connect with the residents, we connect with the families. We stay in touch, we ask them where they're at, we ask them what are their needs, and we've been able to connect them with resources from unemployment to underemployment, job training, opportunities for credit repair, expungements and other things with records. We've been able to do 7 or 8 food drops in mobile drive-through pantries. We've connected them with other resources, such as respite care for some family members who didn't know that was available. They were able to work with Easter seals. So we basically set out to really understand, really embrace Seaford and the community and the culture, to understand the needs of those residents there, and then to try to fill in the gaps. We are all about partnership, collaboration, resource connectivity, and support.
We thought it would be nice to give you some visuals regarding some of the work we've been doing in the Seaford community. Small disclaimer, some of the photos you see were taken before COVID hit, so masks were not worn at the time or removed for photo purposes. We started our work surveying the landscape of Seaford. We held focus groups with students, parents, and community leaders within the area. For Christmas, we partnered with community partners and stakeholders to help those in need have a good Christmas. Once COVID hit, we gave out gift cards and other household essentials to the residents of Meadow Bridge Apartments. We also volunteered handing out food with the Seaford School District. As the coronavirus numbers spiked, we held COVID testing within the apartment complex as an added benefit to the residents of Meadow Bridge Apartments. We hosted a bike rodeo in partnership with the Seaford Police Department and the City of Seaford. We gave out bikes, helmets, and book bags to each child who participated. A few businesses have heard or read about what we've been doing in the community and have contacted us on multiple occasions to donate computers to the residents of the Seaford Community of Hope to make sure the families had computers to do homework, search for jobs, or participate in telehealth opportunities. The lack of food has been at the top of the list for a majority of the residents that we serve, so we've held multiple food drops throughout the months of October and November for them. The Seaford Community of Hope staff has been recognized with awards and featured in magazine and newspaper publications throughout the state of Delaware for our efforts in the Seaford community. We would like to thank every community partner and stakeholder that has helped us serve this wonderful community that I call home.
Thank you for that, Dave. So as I close, because of our success in the last several years, we are excited that we are expanding throughout Seaford outside of our pilot location on Meadow Bridge Apartments. We are also very excited to announce that we continue to partner with Sussex County Health Coalition. Of course, we've established a new partnership with First State Community Action under the wonderful leadership of Ms. Bernice Edwards and her amazing team. Thanks to Casey Family Home Programs and Highmark and Discover Bank and Delaware Community Foundation, we have quadrupled our funding to nearly $300,000. Lastly, as a result of our early work in Seaford, our First Lady and Casey and others are very interested in launching a Wilmington Community of Hope out of the Stubbs 2 Gen Center in Wilmington, Delaware. Thank you for your time. If you want to know more about our Community of Hope, our website, cffde.org, and you'll find out more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. J. We're honored as a coalition to be an integral part in this work and to help continue to foster it as we move forward. The video was awesome. Really love to see things in real time and love that you promote the really important work that your consultants and staff do. And as you know, we're a committed partner. So with that, everything gets turned back over to Tricia Newcomer to wrap things up and close out our day.
All right. So at this point, Peg, do you want to do partner updates?
If there are any, yeah, we have time. So if anybody has anything to share, that would be great.
What's the best way for us virtually with 55 people still on? If anybody does have any partner updates, now's kind of the time.
Yep, you could actually
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, and under the reactions, you could put a thumb up, and we'll know to call on you. See how I got my little thumb? So under reactions, if you click it, it gives you an opportunity to click on that. So like Jenna Maltabano, she was one of the first. So you could call on her, Tricia.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Hi guys, so Jenna with AMS over here. I just wanted to let everyone know that AMS of Delaware is now officially fully staffed for Spanish speaking clients, from our front desk to our counselors and our doctor. We are totally able to start accepting Spanish speaking clients. Thanks.
And Jenna, can you give us a real quick snapshot of what AMS stands for?
So Addiction Medical Solutions. So we are outpatient based in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. We offer all outpatient counseling services for drug and alcohol treatment. We also offer medication assisted treatment with methadone, Suboxone, Subutex, or Vivitrol.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Matt, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone. Matt Coyle from the American Lung Association. I'm in charge of our youth contract for tobacco prevention and education. So that encompasses a lot, and I'm not going to go into it. But if you have any concerns, questions, comments about tobacco prevention, education, including vaping, e-cigarettes, how can we get somebody in your school trained? The administrators are catching kids using tobacco products. How do we get them cessation resources and things like that? Please let me know. We're always looking for trainers and facilitators for that, as well as advisors for our Kick Butts Generation, which is Delaware's youth movement against tobacco and nicotine. It is an extremely great group of kids, fully funded from the state, so no money that you have to put out, that I also manage. So any of that you're interested in, or if you're like anything lung health related, obviously we're the Lung Association, so anything from COVID-19 to the vaccine to other lung illnesses, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. We'll go to Amy Rust, and then I think Kim O'Malley peppers up after that. So Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Rust. I'm the clinical supervisor at Brandywine Counseling Drop-In Center. I just wanted to make everybody aware that our drop-in center is opened Monday through Friday from 7 to 2. We provide meals. People homeless can get showers. They can wash their laundry. We do have clothing, shoes, hygiene products that may be needed for their services. They can come in and just hang out, have a cup of coffee, and we have peer supports on that will help provide them with getting access to local resources to hopefully get them to be a little bit more successful.
Kim, did you still want to go ahead?
Yep, I'm Kim O'Malley with the Delaware State Fire School. In the fall, we had to move a lot of our fire and life safety programs virtually. We had some good success with that. We also tried something new with a lot of the childcare facilities in Sussex County mainly, but we had some in Kent and Newcastle as well. And with some of the libraries with our safety to go bags, which basically is a bag full of safety tips. There's activity pages, a fun giveaway, as well as some other information pertinent to the month. So pretty much like just an example, October was fire safety month and we had trick-or-treating safety. So we did 2 different bags. November, we did pedestrian safety just because of it getting darker earlier, just to remind people of that. December, we did holiday and toy safety. We're looking to do that again in the spring. We're going to start next month. I'm trying to regroup and figure things out this month and order materials. So if anybody is interested, please reach out to me. Kat can get you my information, or, you know, Peggy or anybody else. But yes, please reach out to me. I'm going to be sending out an email probably by the end of this week to gain interest, to see how much we need to order and what we need to get out, as well as virtual programs. We've done the tour of the fire engine along with fire gear, as well as home safety tips. So we are more than willing to do that for anybody who wants it. Thank you.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you. Karen?
Hi, this is Karen Johnston from the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension of 4-H. Just wanted to give folks a heads up that for the month of March and April, we'll be doing a couple campaigns related to the Kick Butts generation, as Matt spoke of, as well as National Drug Facts Week information. And we'll be utilizing teens to get the messaging out.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
I just wanted to give an update on what our April, just to put out a little teaser. So April, we're going to really be focusing a little bit around economic mobility and wealth creation with regards to Sussex County. We're going to be looking at inviting someone from the Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council. The director, Rashmi, I've already spoken to her, is very interested in talking about that and getting individuals into starting their own personalized wealth creation and what it means around getting involved with her organization. 2, would like to feature, and we're going to work to get Deltec here to talk a little bit about their workforce development initiatives and strategies. And we know that Sussex County needs more of that. So we're going to be inviting somebody from the Delaware Workforce Investment Board to talk to all of us about how to get your organization either positioned or pivoted to help start supporting getting people into the workforce pipelines in Sussex County. And then we're also going to be inviting Stephen Tsai from the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation and his entrepreneurial ecosystem that is now emerging, and we're supporting that as it comes into Sussex County. You will notice some of the articles teed up in our quarterly newsletter that will help inform some of that, but it'll be nice to actually hear. We're very interested in equity, and equity only occurs when people have the ability to take care of themselves and their families. And unless we do a better job across Sussex County to ensure that those families can create wealth for themselves, we'll be missing that mark. And so these are all organizations that we are going to be partnering with, do partner with, should partner with, and we'll hope that you'll join us in April for that. Tricia?
Awesome, thanks, Peg. Yep, as she mentioned, our next quarterly meeting in April is going to be April 22nd. So you want to make sure you put that on your calendar now. Certainly with everything being virtual these days, calendars fill up really quickly. So you want to make sure you put that on your calendar. We also have a Meet the Funder event coming up on February 18th, I believe it is. So there's that opportunity. And then all of our committees continue to meet virtually. The youth engagement, the drug-free communities, the Sussex Success, the SCHC Health Committee, and the Behavioral Health Task Group. If you have interest in any of those, certainly reach out. We can get you information, we can get you connected and plugged in where you can be most helpful. We do appreciate all of you giving up your time this morning to be with us. It's definitely important for all of us to get together, hear what's going on, and continue to work collaboratively for the success of our county. So with that, we'll wrap it up and we'll see everybody in April. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great next quarter. If you need anything from us or our team, please reach out.
Awesome.